you navigate to the rest. So with this case, I'm going to click on finish for it to generate our login activity interface. And with that, so we get two things. We get the first one is the login activity.java, which is already linked with the layout activity login. So here we're going to store the backend logics for our navigation and even capturing even the username fields. And then we get another layout here, another file called activity login.xml, where we're going to do now a real-time building of our UI. So under this section, now we'll be able to see under Java, we have a login activity Java class. And then under the resources where we, as you have learned, is just everything to do with UI. There's now a folder which was missing called layouts. And under layouts, we have now the activity and underscore login.xml. So under this section is where we have this area where we can be able to now build our UI. So to take you quickly under this section, so we have something here called palettes. And then under palettes is where we have all the widgets that we're going to use on our interface, which makes our life easy in terms of development. So it's going to be a drag and drop kind of developing the UI. And then under the palettes, where under the common area, we see that we can be able to use the buttons, image view, recycler view, and so many other things, which we'll let you guys to go and learn more about this. And then under text, we have like a text view, a plain text, a password field. So under text is plainly where we have input fields, and also a text view where it's just for viewing something. And then we have buttons, as you can see, and so many others of these widgets. So let me believe some of this you've done in class. So the things to note is that in each and every layout, you always have to start with something as a root layout. So in this case, by default, we have a constraint layout. And a constraint layout is a design layout where you can be able to align your UI based on very many different parameters. So without much explaining, so let's just go and do something here. So we want to put an email field into our interface. So we just do is tap on the email field, and then you can be able to hold it using your mouse button and drag it into the interface here for the mobile. So when we do that and we leave it, so it automatically puts that field within the interface. So inside the constraint layouts, normally we do constraints according to the edges, as you've seen. And also you can be able to put it like to come just after the top. So with that, I'm going to open the attribute section where we're going to see now how to manipulate this input field. So for this case, we've dragged an email field, and we would like to give it some padding and also some hint. And then we can be able to run our app. We just see a skeleton of what we've just built. So from here, we're going to say under the layout section, we have a constraint widget where we can be able to move, give it a padding from the top. And then you can give it like 16 for this case. And then we will like our field to be stretched a bit, to be touching the margins. And also you can give it a margin of kind of 16 for this case. So within this field, it has a unique ID. And maybe to take you all through that, under the attribute section here is where you can be able to manipulate so many things about this input field. in terms even of the hint, the text, and so many other things, even changing the text appearance and so many things. So for this case, I'm going to change the ID. I will leave it as it is. And then we like to put a hint so that we can be able to know that this field is an email field. So for you to do that, you can come just to the attributes, common attributes, and the section for hint. And then you just say email. And you do that and press enter. So you can see within the view, I hope it is visible to all of you. So a hint has come here called email. And then let's go and add another field called password. So for a password field, we will say we want to constrain it to be at the bottom of the email field, like that, to touch the left margin and also to touch the right margin as it is. So with the same view, we're going to give it a margin, both sides, top, left and right. And also we want it to be stretched like that. So with this, also we want to put a hint for our field. We just say password so that people know that this is a password field. And last, we just need a button, which can just drag it like that. So for the button, for this case, for the demo, we will just leave it as it is. We just constrain to the top and also to the left and to the right so that it aligns accordingly to the layout. Apologies. And then finally, we want to change this text from button to login. So to do that, we'll just come under the attribute section. Then you can scroll, or you can even utilize the search button where you search for the text. And then under the text, we just want to change it and we say login. Then press enter. You see we have the login as described. So I'm seeing having some errors. So let me see why you have these errors. So normally when you have an error on your UI, you will see a red exclamation mark like this. So you can be able to toggle on it, and then you can be able to just say fix. And then anyway that has an error, Android Studio has the capability to help you to fix it as it is. So we can see that now we don't have a red, it's just a warning, which is not so much of an important. So with this, we have just done a very simple login interface, so quick. And that's how easy it is to do something very basic using Android. Now, before we proceed, I would like to run our application. We just see what we've developed. And then we just have a look and feel on how it will appear on our Android device. So we'll just come here at the top, close to the play icon. And then when you click on it, when you run it will start building the app, as you can see here. And then within a few minutes, we should be able to see that within our device here, we should be able to see our application being launched. So as the application is building, I welcome any questions up to this point. And so far now we're in the phase of how to build a simple UI activity using Java. So I'm seeing we are having a problem here. 6 issues we were found by checking the AR metadata. Okay, so I'm going to fix this issue. So it's about the version that we have targeted for building our app, which is normally under the Gradle scripts. So under Gradle scripts is where we have 2 configuration areas, build.gradle for the project and also build.gradle for the module app. So for us to fix this issue, which they're saying is we're going to update the compile SDK version to 33. So let's see, I'm going to change the compile SDK to 33 and also the target SDK to 33. And then we see. So for those who are not there, so Android SDK is the version for each and every Android OS being released. So with that, let's see if it's going to fix our problem. So I'm going to do a sync now. And then after doing the syncing, we're going to run our project. So another thing to note about Android Studio is when you receive such errors, utilize online resources such as Stack Overflow, YouTube, and I was just about to say ChatGPT, but Dr. may hold against me here for institutions. I don't know if it is allowed or being allowed. Yes, so for that, I recommend and other online platform where you can be able to get solutions to Android issues. There's going to be a lot, so be mindful of that. Be mindful for that. So as the project is building, anybody has any question? As I take a break, water break. You could just raise your hand or leave a message on the comments. So the Gradle has stopped building. So let me run now the application we see. So now it's doing the installation and then it has launched our activity. And so that's where we have now our login activity, as you can see. So from what we have just done, build basically is put an email field, password field, and a login button for this case. So as you can see, when you click on it, you can be able to put something there, and even like this. And then you can even put a password there, which is also hidden. So, so we've just done a sample login activity there. So the next thing is we want to do is when somebody clicks on login page, it takes him to the dashboard. And for that, so I'm going to do something quickly, and then we're going to do now the backend logic of when somebody clicks on login page, it opens the activity for the dashboard page. So with that, now we can be able to see physically our app, which has launched. And then when I go home and then move up, you can be able to see that our app icon is right there. It might be smaller for some of you. I don't know if you can be able to zoom. Yeah, so we can see the default icon for the launcher and the application name fairly up as it is. So with that, let me progress quickly. We do the other page, how the linkage between the two works. Stella, can you mute? Thank you for that. So now I'm going to do the same. So now we're going to the next phase for creating a dashboard activity, which I'm going to do it quickly. So which we're going to do right click of this section, and then we're going to say new. So for those who are not there, we created a login activity, and now we're going to create a dashboard activity with within the same package, and we are going to call it dashboard activity, which is going to be an empty activity for this case. So same as before. So we're going to rename the activity name to dashboard from main activity to dashboard. And then under the layout name is activity dashboard, and then the package name retain as it is. And then the source language also retains as Java. So for those who are not there, we are using Java to do a mobile app, a sample mobile app called Ukweli app, where we have a login activity and a dashboard activity. So far, this is not going to be a launch activity because we have already done a login activity, which is now a launcher one. And so for this page is going to be viewed through navigation now by the user. So with this, I'm going to click on finish, and then Android is going to build the two files. So one file is for the dashboard activity, which is going to be our logical area, and the other file, which is going to be the UI file, an example file, where we're going to create the user interface for our login, our dashboard. So for this case, from what you have learned, we're going to use the palette area where we're going just to choose. Now for the dashboard, we're just going to drag a text view within the screen. And then a text view, it's just a widget to view a text information. And then we're going to constrain it as you can see. And then you see we just want it to be stretched. And then let me zoom a bit in so that you guys can be able to view this section of the screen. So with that, inside the text view, we can be able to now say something like, under the attributes, so we can be able to modify and say something like under the text, since it is a text, so we just change from text view and say hello, you have logged in successfully. So with that, we'll be able to see that we have logged in successfully. Just a message within the dashboard, and then within this dashboard we are going to drag a button just to place it somewhere around there. We also constrain it to be at the bottom of this message, and also we constrain it to the end so that it can be able to be aligned accordingly. So under this button we can be able to do, let's say, each to be stretched, no, and then we give it some margins between both sides like that. And we are going to change the text to probably something like sign out, so that you can be able to navigate back to the first page. So with this, I can also do this, give it to look very nice, give it a margin using the attribute section, where you can be able to adjust the margins. And yeah, so with this, we have just created an activity called dashboard, where we be able to see this message, and a button sign out, where it will take us back to the first page. So for that, we have successfully finished developing a sample UI for this case. So as you can see, it is quite easy to do drag and drop using the Android palette section. Yeah. So for that, now we go to the next step, where we're going to now learn how to now link the two. So as you have seen, if I open the application now, we want to link. When you click on this button, login, it should now take you to the dashboard page. And then we're going to assume that whatever information which has been keyed in under the email and the password field as correct. So for us to be able to map this login button, now we're going to go to the side where we're going to now do the backend logic for the login activity UI. And then for this case, we'll go to the login activity class. And then within this class, you can see that we have already a boilerplate code which has been auto-generated for us, which has been already linked. Now, I believe in your classes you learned about the different life cycle of an Android application. So in each and every activity, we have around 5 life cycle events which happens from launching the application by just clicking like this up to this point of viewing the UI. So I believe we've done that on class. So here we're going to do it practically. So the first life cycle is called on create, where the first method to be triggered, where it sets the content view of our layout. So as you can see, art.layout.activity login. So this layout is now what you see here on the phone, and also on the code is under resources layout activity login, this UI, which we have just designed, this button. So this is always the entry point of each and every activity on an Android application. So the other life cycles which you will learn later is how to use the on start, is another life cycle, which we just call it as it is. There is on resume, and there's also on destroy. And all this can be used depending on application on various sections. So on destroy normally happens when, for example, when I click on home, so this on destroy will be triggered and your code, which is here, will act accordingly when an application has been navigated out of view. So the on destroy will be automatically, the life cycle for that will be triggered. And every time you go back, like opening the app, it will come back to the on create, and then it will initialize the on start method, which will start the UI, which will now be visible. So at on time and disposal, you can be able to go through all those life cycles for the Android activity. So now we want to do a code when somebody clicks login to take him to the next dashboard page. So for that, we're going to do something very basic. So under our layouts, for us to be able to link that to, for us to be able to do that, we're going to utilize the Android way, which you can come to attributes and search for an attribute called on click, or is it click? Was on click. So let's just use the other method. There are two ways we can do this. So now the other way is to reference this ID for this button from our logic side. So the first thing we're going to do is define a global variable. We're going to say button, and this button, we're just going to give it a name called button login. So this button login, we're going to initialize it in our code. So we're going to say button login, and then we're going to say we'd like to find the view by ID, and then r.id, which is basically now the button as it is. So the first thing is define a global variable, and then that variable inside now, when the lifecycle of the app is on create, when it's being created, we would like to attach this button login to this specific ID. And then with that purpose, we're going to we're going to now say, now this button, we would like to set an on-click listener. So set on-click listener is a method in Java where we are going to set, if somebody just clicks on it, we are going to see an event to happen here. So after doing that, we're going to say set on click listener path in the view. So this is a short form of 108. And basically, if you want to extract this method, is just to say, sorry for that. Let me change this. Yeah, so we change it to another, yeah. So if I do this, it's basically saying new view.onClick listener, and then which overrides the onClick now event. So with the latest version of Java, we can just get a very short form of our code. And then inside here is where we listen for login button clicks. So for this case, I'm going to do a sample so we see how it looks like. So I'm going to toast a message so that we see how it looks on the screen. As I said, login button clicked. with it, and then we're going to put toast dot length long. Then we want to show this message. So if I rerun my code, so it's going to build with now the latest changes, and then you'll be able to see now when I click, there's a message login button clicked. So we can be able to see that indeed this code is being executed. So how do we now, when somebody clicks this login button, how do we open now the next activity? So for this case, I'm going to assume the email field and the password field, how you are going to collect that information. So I'm going to skip in today's demo to save on time. Assume that the email and the password is correct. We are going to just place a code here immediately to just navigate to the next page. So for this case, I'm going to do now navigating to different pages in Android, you use something called intents. So I'm going to say intent and then give it a name as login intent. And then we're going to pass as a new intent where we pass where we are and where we want to go. So for this case, where we want to go is now the dashboard activity dot class. So for that intent, so I'm going to say this login intent as a variable, and then we would like to say start. Actually, we would like to say actually I think it is start activity login intent. Yes. So with this simple code, we are navigating to the dashboard activity using intent. So for me to explain this code is mean that we are using the intent method provided by Android, where you say a new class of that intent where we pass the current page you are in, which is this, or another way to say login activity.this, and then where we want to go as the next parameter, which is the dashboard activity.class. So for you to be able to navigate, use start activity method by passing now the login intent. So if we rerun this code and we test, we should now be able to view the other activity. So let's just assume you've put tests at email.com here, and then the password is password. And then when somebody clicks on login, now we see that we have now navigated to the other page called the dashboard, where we see we had placed on the code, we had placed a text view, saying, hello, you have logged in successfully. And then we have a sign out button, which when you click on it, it should now take us back to the login page. So for that, as you have seen, the code is so simple. It's just a 2-line code. And we can be able to copy the same and even place the same logic now on our dashboard activity by going to the dashboard UI under this sign out button, which has the ID of button 2. And I can even rename it to button sign out so that it can be and then we refactor so that it can be easier for referencing on our backend logic side. So for this case, we are going to do the same thing. You can create or you can create a global variable for the case. So since it's a button, not a batch, so it's a button. So for this button, go say button sign out, and then we're going to associate this button sign out to its ID by finding that ID for this button, and then we say r.id dot button sign out. And then we're going to say now button sign out, since we have found you, we want to set an click listener so that when somebody clicks on the sign out button, what we want you to do is to take us back to the first page. So in this case, we're going to say just using some few shortcuts. So we say now our intent here, we're going to say sign out. And also we're going to change here to sign out as a variable or even assign intent. And then this time we're going back to the login activity.class. So what just changes is where we are and then to where now. So to where changes to login activity.class. So if I run this code again to our interface, changes were not applied. So it's suggesting that we reinstall and restart the app. So we do that. So we say something sample test at email.com and then password. And then you click on this login button. It says, hello, you've logged in successfully. And then now when you click on sign out, it takes you back to the login page. So there is somebody who has muted his mic. Kindly mute. Tyson Mwendwa, kindly mute. Okay. So with that marks a wrap up of our basic Android application that we have seen. So maybe last thing to do before we go to Flutter is show you how to, now we want to change the app name. Yeah, imefika mahali umeona hii app name haileti shangwe. So you want to change it to something else. So you just come to the manifest file, as you've seen here. Hapa kwa manifest, kuja Android manifest. So you can see you can be able to change even the icon and even the label. And the app name is stored in somewhere called @string app name. So ukiona @string usishtuke. So this place is just under resources.
Vincent, check whether you are muted.
Oh, am I muted? Hello, hello. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Can you hear me, Dr. So I think it's your end, Dr.
Yes, Vincent, it seems we have lost you.
I am available. Other members can confirm I'm here. Anyone else?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Dr. I think check your network.
Yes. Let me check.
Hear you.
Okay. So I was at this point where we wanted to change the application name from Ukweli app to something else. So with this, ukiona a string, just remember it's under resources and then values, and then there is a file called strings.xml. So another shortcut is to hold control on your keyboard while you are here, and then you'll be able to see something like a line, and then just click on it. It will take you directly where you will be able to change. So we can be able to change this to say something like demo app with a space, and then can be able to save. And then if we reload our app, we should be able to see that our app name has changed from Ukweli app to demo app. And then as you can see, yeah, it has changed. So even the application icon, the launcher icon, can be able to change it from here. And I'll let you guys to figure out so many other things. We cannot be able to cover everything in one setting. So with that is just a basic example of how to develop an app in Android using Java. So maybe just to give you guys a hint, so whatever I've done here for the button, you can be able to do the same case for these fields to get their data. So you just define the text input, and then inside the onCreate method, you just find their IDs for these fields. And then for this time, you don't set an on-click listener for the fields, but we say you want to get the text, so you can be able to get the text. So let me just maybe do quickly one for like a minute for the purposes for the demo. So normally these fields in Android is normally called edit text, and then we're going to give it a name, something like email field, and then inside on create method, which normally is executed each and every time. So let's say we want to get the email data. So we'll just say now the email field variable, which is going to find the view by the ID. And then we're going to say that text is edit text email address. And then with that, now we can be able to now using this email field get the text. So we can do that by utilizing the Android way, which we can say now we would like to store that in a variable called now email. So we say this email, we want to get the email from the email field dot get the text. So we use that function, and then we say convert it to string so that it can be able to be going to be able to get the data now efficiently. So with that, you can be able now to manipulate this information the way you would like. Now, for the demo, maybe you can just do a toast message. When somebody clicks on this, we'll see what the email was keyed in. So I'm just going to provide a toast message where we're going to reference this section, that email, and then we're going to give our toast a length on how long to show, as long, and then we're going to show that we see this email from our backend, how to capture. So for that case, I'm going to comment this one for now so that it doesn't redirect, so they can be able to see the effects. So with that, I'm going to reload and restart the app. So with that, I'm going to put an email here like test@example.org, and then a password as password, and then I click on login. Oops, I think something has crashed. So let's see what has happened. So I have just moved the string email to get the text to string inside when somebody is clicking. So that when somebody is clicking, you just get that information. So let me rerun now the app. So we put a sample email, sample password, and then I clicked on logged in. Oops, I think it. Oh! I have placed it on the wrong class. So it's supposed to be on the login class, not the dashboard class. So I'm going to just copy and paste everything back to this side, and this one to put it on the login activity side. Then finally is to count this, and actually both of this. Then we put it on the login class. We comment the navigation code, and then with that we should be able now to see, we're able to get that data as we type. So we want to say test, like that, password, like that, and then I click on login. So you can be able to see this pop-up message, test@email.com. Test@email.com. So that is how you get data from input fields. And this is just a short way of just displaying on for us to see for the demo. So you can do so many things with this kind of structure where you can say, I want to check in this database, if this user exists, then now open the dashboard. Yeah. So up to that point, I would like to stop for the demo for the Android app. I hope I have done justice to learning using Android Java. So for that case, I would like to take like a question, 2 maximum questions for this section. And then so that we can be able to speed up now to go to the other framework called Flutter. And then we see what Flutter offers on top of the mobile app ecosystem, and how and why Flutter, basically. So thank you very much. Dr. I open the floor to the members. So like two questions, you can do it on the chat, and also you can raise up your hand. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Vincent, for that. I think I think others are still joining. So I think the demonstration is quite clear, very clear. So it's only from the side of the audience that we need to get questions from you members, whether you have anything that needs an elaboration. I can see a few people have raised their hands, like I can see a few who have raised their hands, a few. So if you have any question to ask, kindly you are free to ask. Just unmute and you can ask a question. So otherwise, you have seen very clearly from how it has been demonstrated. You have seen how you create an activity. Remember in class I said any Android application is treated as an activity. So basically an Android application is an activity. And you have seen how you create one of these basic activities, the login activity and the other dashboard activity. And how you are actually having the main activity that is presented, which is the login activity. The other one is now a sub activity of the other one, so that whatever is presented as soon as you power up that application is the main activity, and in this case, is a login activity. So you have seen an activity and an expose of how the structure of a Android app looks like. Unless there are any questions, I can see a few here on the chat. Let me check. I think I had seen a few questions posted on the chat. Let me go through them very quickly. Someone is asking whether it is possible to link the login part to a website, or whether, I think you should have asked whether you can log in, whether you can link an Android application to an existing website, like now building progressive web applications. So he's asking whether it's possible to link the login part to a website. I think Vincent will be able to answer. Another question is it possible to connect whatever you are doing to an SQL database? Or in other terms, storage in mobile applications, the aspect about data storage in mobile applications. Someone is asking about color palettes, how you are choosing the different colors. And then I think those are the three questions. The one on how you are pointing that mobile application to a website, or is it possible to link the login part to websites? And the second question is it possible to connect to a storage, and how do you change the colors? Maybe Vincent, if you can hear me, you can respond to the three questions, please.
Yes, I can hear you, Dr. So for the one for the color, I'll just do that quite quick, elaborately, quickly. And just to note, the color, I did not change it. I just used what Android by default generated while building the app. So for you to change the colors, you come under resources, the values, and then under values, and then you will see that you have colors.xml. So under here, you can be able to change.
Keep the questions coming. Keep the questions coming, so that Vincent can respond to all the questions at once. So kindly keep the questions coming. If you need to say something, you are free to do so. You can just unmute and ask your question.
Thank you, Dr. So for the colors, under colors.xml can be able to manipulate the colors accordingly. And normally also
Yes,
colors.
any other question? I'm still taking the questions.
Okay.
So far, I've recorded 3 questions. Free to post to the chat platform, or you can directly ask the question. Yes, any question, members?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay,
So
so
if there's
I've
no
seen,
question, I can
I've seen the
hand over to Vincent.
Dr. I don't know if you can hear us.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh yeah. There is somebody is raising a question. Proceed.
Okay, I'm asking, I've seen the app bar as well, it comes by default. So how do you customize it? Like, let's say if you want one activity, like the login activity, to have an app bar with a title, login, maybe the sign up to have a title, sign up. Maybe if you want an icon at the end of the app bar, how do you like customize the app bar?
Okay. I'll show you that one. Any other? If none, I think I'll proceed. So for the colors, I was demonstrating. You can be able to. I was saying normally it goes together with the theme. So according to the theme for our case, is a dark theme where we point the color primary to where using the add color attributes and then to pick purple 500. So the first thing you just do under colors, you can be able to create a name for your color or even modify what is currently available. So you can be able to even create your own color name, and let's say even red. And then this name is going to be referenced later on the styling for the theme. So here normally color red is normally, let me just use, see this is orange, so somewhere pretty much there. So that's color red. And then so you can be able to even do so many others. So now when you come to the theme, now the theme for the app in all Android is normally segmented into 3 main primary colors section. So normally we have a color primary, a color primary variant, and then color on primary. So in later versions of Android, it could have been primary dark, and tertiary color, or an accent color of that sort. So for that case, if you change the primary color, that means the primary color is normally this one you see here under the up bar. And then the variant is normally a darker version, which is normally here the status bar. And then on primary is white, which means things like the text will be white, and others, which like the demo app we see here. So an example, if you want to change the color primary to red, which we've just created inside the add color red, you can be able to see, you just say add color and then the name of your color, which is red, this one. So when you do that, you'll just have to also rebuild the app, and then you will see that our app will entirely changed from the app bar to red. And then since it's a color primary, each and every primary button designed, it will pick the primary color as it is. So that's why we are using a material component, which I'll let you guys learn more on its own, how the 3 colors morph into your application. So the same case for you can be able to do for this and other colors. Now on to the question for, so the other one was for, let me see. So the other one is changing the title for the app bar. So what you can do, since while we were doing the UI, the layout, so by default, when doing the development for the UI, you see you don't do an app bar tweaking. You just do the body section of the UI. So for you to change the name of the app bar, that will come to the manifest folder, and then under the manifest file, here each and every activity is being defined when you create one. So you see here we have our first activity with the name dashboard, which is by default exported false, which means it is not being backed up. And then we have the other one, which is login activity, which is being exported, which is true. And then it has now an intent filter to say that this is the main and the launcher icon and the launch activity, sorry. So for you to give each and every activity a name, you will just come here into that respective activity, and then you will just say, I want to give it a label. And then for the label for this one, it should be dashboard. And a label for the login activity should be login. So with this, if you load your app, you should be able to see that our activity has changed from login. And then if I see the dashboard by redoing the dashboard has changed to dashboard. Sign out. Oh, I think I commented on the sign out. Let me just go back. So you'll see login, then you should be able to see dashboard. So that's how you assign label for each and every activity. You can also do it programmatically. That and I'll leave it to you guys to learn. You can be able to even do it programmatically from such classes here, from within the login activity Java class and also the dashboard activity Java class. So finally, it was the question on if we can be able to connect our login page to an SQLite database, or if you can be able to also connect our login page to an external service or a website or a database in the cloud or a custom web portal. So for that, yes, it is possible, but the time we have for the demo, it may not be sufficient for us to do a demo on that. But there are libraries that can be able to help you do that. So you can be able to have a look on tutorials on databases for SQLite for Android. And it is very much possible. It is doable with this current kind of form. So for that, for SQLite database here, I mean the local database for Android. Now, if you want to connect this login page to a UI, to a external web portal, for example, you have a web portal and you want to authenticate users based on that portal on your domain or on hosted somewhere. So even that is possible by using things called RESTful web APIs. So RESTful here, I mean creating API endpoints. So API endpoints, which in full, if you guys Google, it is something to do with application programmable interfaces. So which means you can be able to connect multiple devices using APIs. So within an API, you can be able to have a route, let's say something like /login. And then within /login, or not in full, you'll have something like HTTPS, maybe your site or your domain with, and then login.com or /login. Here is basically your site.com/login. So this is an example of an API endpoint where when you hit this endpoint, you post data based on email and password, and then you're waiting a response from the same endpoint that this user exists or not. So if it's yes, you put it, you navigate to the dashboard, and then if not, you just tell the user that you don't exist on our database. So also I'll recommend you guys to learn something about RESTful web services, especially if there is any web application or web app developers here. So you can be able even to learn how to create REST endpoints for people to consume your services. So an example is, for example, Facebook. When you log into Facebook using your mobile app, it is the same credentials that you log in when you're using a web browser. So what has managed Facebook to be able to achieve that is something called RESTful APIs. So you guys can go and have a look on that. And yes, I believe that is all. So I think I'm going to take now us to the next framework, which is Flutter. I hope you can be able to be done with a quick demo of what we've just done as an example here on Android. But for Flutter, I will not create a new project as I've walked you through Android. I have already a sample application that I will just take you through, guys, and explain to you how to go about it. So with that, let me just proceed to the next framework called Flutter. So with this, I'm going to close our project now, our Android-based project. And I am going to open a project called Samples App. So Samples App is a Flutter project. But before I do that, to go to that, let me show you how to create a Flutter project. It is very important. So before I come to Samples App, let me take you or walk you through how to start a new Flutter project. So mind you, for you to start a Flutter project, you need to have installed a Flutter SDK on your platforms. And Flutter SDK also was developed by Google. And you can have a look at this by going to flutter.dev. And then under flutter.dev, you're going to see, when I get started, you're going to see how to install based on your operating system. And something to note about Flutter is it is a multi-platform